So what a week for Cathay Pacific. It got caught up in the turmoil of the protests. Can it survive this storm?
I'm relatively positive that it can weather the storm because what really concerned me is that previously the Chinese regulators has ordered Cathay to stop air crew who joined the anti-government protests to operate flights to China or using the Chinese airspace. It can be a huge impact on the business, but it seems that the issue do have some improvement. First of all, we see that Cathay Pacific already expected that they strongly support the government, and their parent company, Cathay Pacific, their management visited Beijing. I think there should be some compromise with the regulators. And the latest news is that the CAAC, that is the Civil Aviation Administration of China, their officials said that the latest submission of information, including crew identification, meets their the requirement. So I think that the issue is improving. And relatively speaking, the global GDP slowdown and airport protests may have a relatively limited impact on its business as a long-term basis.
Let's talk a little bit about the stock.
Yeah.
I mean, this week it has swung just amazingly.
Yeah.
It started off the week really diving, and then it's gone way up. So we've seen a lot of people in there bargain hunting. Meanwhile, the stock is still, when you look at analysts overall, they still consider it a buy. So clearly there's still some enthusiasm and certainly a lot of belief in the company. What do you think about this? Should people be waiting, or should they go ahead and jump into this right now before the stock rises more?
I'll put it this way, I think why the people buying is because, as I mentioned before, seems the issue is improving, and now the investor focus on the fundamentals, especially the corporate earnings. So we can see that for the first half, the corporate earnings for Cathay Pacific actually is better than the market forecast. And according to the management, usually second half business operating environment is better than the first half. So if we focus on fundamentals, there's some good news for the company. And don't forget that for the past few years, the oil hedging contract bring a lot of trouble to the company. But most of them will be expired or completed gradually in this year. So for the business corporate earnings, we have a good news in future. That's why when the company share price drop down significantly, we see some bottom fishing or some bargain hunting. So that's why we think that it makes sense to do it if you are very aggressive. But for the for other analysts, I would say some of them may be a little bit behind the curve. They are looking for a year or more than 12 months investment horizon. So for them, looking for the long term, I think is good. But for short term, the stock price may still have very volatile because of the market.
Now we've got challenges ahead for Cathay, including that it appears to have hurt its brand in the all-important Chinese market. A lot of Chinese travelers are very concerned about Cathay as it's gotten caught up in the protest turmoil. So looking ahead, what are the challenges for Cathay? Do you see that this is going to be long-term, or is this going to be something that it gets beyond and then it's got other things that it's dealing with?
I do have a different opinion. I think the current issue for long term, the impact will be relatively limited. As long as they can have compromise with the Chinese regulators, so the impact is limited. But what really concerns me is business model. As we can see that the competition is getting larger and larger competition, especially from the low-cost carrier, or we name it the budget airlines. And even for the high-end market, according to some global airline service survey, Cathay Pacific, the ranking is keep dropping down. So I think the business model and competition is a real problem. And we will see the results soon, because this year is important. This year is the final year of its 3-year transformation program. So we should be able to see whether there are some significant improvement for the business. And we understand that for the past few years, those management is under great pressure. But I do think that they at least make a good choice is the acquisition of the Hong Kong Express. It can bring a synergy effect to the company. So we can take a wait and see to see whether they can have big improvement in corporate earnings and operating environment after the 3 years transformation program before we making the investment decision.
So bottom line for you, would you invest now or wait?
I will wait.
Okay. Thanks so much, Kenny. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to having you back.
Yeah.